Okay, it is 7:15. So we're going to get started at our new start time. And I do want to begin with some apologies. We did have a problem with the passcode. We'll try to figure out what went wrong. We're not really sure, but we're very glad to have a fix that could allow us to welcome you here this evening. And so I've been looking at the chat. You guys all seem friendly and very forgiving about this. So thank you for your patience. I really appreciate it. My name is Christine Woolley, and I'm the Associate Dean of Curriculum and an Associate Professor of English here at St. Mary's College. I want to thank you so much for joining us at the very first Talk of the summer. I'm particularly excited because you're here at the moment, to my mind, that marks the beginning of your experience as a St. Mary's student. ESOR, our electronic version of the event that allows you to get oriented, to register for classes, and to be advised. It's the moment where you start to make real decisions about not just where you're going to college, you've made that decision, but what you're going to do when you get here. When you're coming to St. Mary's, it's when you ask, where will the river take you? And you, at this event and throughout the summer, get to start coming up with some answers. To mark this occasion, we have asked President Jordan and Vice President for Enrollment Management, David Houghton, to say a few words of welcome. Before they do, I am going to tell you that it would be helpful if you keep your cameras and your microphones off, and that you use the chat for questions and comments as you already are. So please keep that up. All right, you've seen also the note that its session is being recorded, so please be aware of that. And we do expect, we will try to kind of speed things up as we can, but this is an hour program, so we may run a little over 8 o'clock. So without further ado, I am going to turn things over to President Jordan. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine, and good evening, Seahawks. Welcome to ESOR. If you haven't noticed already, we have many acronyms and metaphors related to birds in general, birds flying, and life on the water. I hope you never get tired of that. I actually think it makes our community more vibrant and fun. Just think about it. We have soar, hawk talk, surf, the hawk's nest, and many others. When you matriculate, I look forward to your coming up with some new ones, like a school spirit song that I will announce as a contest in the fall to be played by the new pep band we'll be forming. Isn't that part of what college is about? I attended college 150 years ago. Whenever my classmates or fellow alumni meet, we recite our school motto and, without missing a beat, break into song, specifically our school alma mater that we hold so near and dear to our hearts. That is part of what college is about, those shared experiences that become great memories. Although I'm not certain many of my fellow classmates would say that listening to me sing is a great memory. But enough about me. Welcome to the National Public Honors College, an uncommon place, a place where you will have stimulating discussions in the classroom, on the path, and on the field, a place where there is a strong sense of community, a community focused on our mission, focused on our ethos, working hard to ensure that all who enter thrive academically, socially, and emotionally, individually and collectively. I was going to spend a few minutes speaking with you about how great this place is and how it will position you well for success beyond the banks of this river, but decided not to do that because you already know. How do I know that you know? Because you accepted our offer of admission and are here tonight. Thank you for that. I hope you're feeling giddy and ready to be here. I know we're ready for you to be here. We've been preparing for this moment, it seems like, for 2 years. Now that might be an exaggeration, but what is reality when you have lived through a global pandemic? Well, a special kind of reality exists on the banks of the St. Mary's River. We can't wait for you to get here and experience this place for yourself. For now, I will just say, welcome to the St. Mary's College community. We look forward to seeing you in the real in a few months. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, President Jordan. And now we will turn to Vice President Houghton, who also has some words of welcome.
So greetings from the Admission Annex. I'm located behind the Admission Welcome Center on the St. Mary's College campus. If you've had the opportunity to visit and tour our beautiful campus, you've walked right by my office during that time. My name is David Houghton Jr., and I'm the Vice President for Enrollment Management. I want to offer everyone a warm welcome to St. Mary's College, the National Public Honors College. You made a great choice, and I look forward to personally welcoming you on campus in August. As you join the St. Mary's College community, we are looking forward to welcoming what we expect to be the largest first-year class at the college since 2012. You were also part of the largest applicant pool in the history of the college, and the admission committee really enjoyed getting to know you through the admission review and selection process. We are absolutely delighted you chose St. Mary's College. With you joining us from afar today, I want to share some characteristics of the class, your fellow classmates. You are a diverse class. 55% of you are female and 45% of you are male. Black, Indigenous, people of color comprise 31% of the class. 23% of you are among the first generation in your family to attend college. You represent 21 counties in Maryland, with the largest number of students coming from Montgomery County, with Anne Arundel, Baltimore, and St. Mary's counties following. More than 10% of you are from out of state, with the largest groups of students coming from the Commonwealth of Virginia. Within the United States, those coming the farthest are from California, Utah, and Montana. Citizens of El Salvador are the largest group of students who are not US citizens. 24% of you are planning on playing a varsity sport, with the largest number on the men's lacrosse team, followed by field hockey and baseball. We have the first new students who will be participating on our new track and field team. We're very excited about that. You've also done very well in high school, and the average grade point average is a 3.8. For those of you who are more familiar with letter grades, the entering class has an A- average GPA. From my point of view, and I may be biased, you are an A+ class. Biology is the most popular major, followed by those who are undecided. Psychology and environmental studies follows. I look forward to seeing how your interests change over the next 4 years. It's the St. Mary's way to celebrate our collective diversity. Remember this as you get to know each other over the next few months with the orientation leaders, in your orientation groups this summer, or in our social community on ZME. If you've not already joined our ZME community, I encourage you to do so. Hundreds of your future friends and classmates are meeting and connecting ahead of arriving on campus. As you contemplate embracing your college experience, I'd like to offer a couple of pieces of advice from one of my mentors who influenced thousands of students in his career. His name was George N. Parks. Yes, I know that this was literally in another century, but his wisdom, or starred thoughts, as he called them, remain with me today. Starred thought: you never get a second chance to make a first impression. You are embarking on your college experience. Bring your best to the conversations you'll have during ESOR. Be open to new people, ideas, and experiences. Starred thought: you get back what you give out. Jump into ESOR, our weekly Hot Talk webinars, our expanded fall orientation, our new week of welcome, and the fall semester. As excited as you are about enrolling at St. Mary's College, you might be a bit apprehensive or nervous. This is perfectly natural in normal times, and maybe even more the case as we enter into our new normal. We understand and are planning a terrific set of orientation programs to make your transition to St. Mary's College as smooth as possible. The St. Mary's Way, our common ethos of caring for self, for each other, and for the environment, has the entire St. Mary's community looking forward to partnering with you towards a bright future. Again, my name is David Houghton Jr. I'm the Vice President for Enrollment Management. If I may be able to offer any assistance this summer or over the next 4 years, you know where my office is, and please do not hesitate to be in touch. Welcome to St. Mary's College.
Thank you so much, Vice President Houghton. It's wonderful to hear these words of welcome from our campus leaders. And so now you've heard a little bit about what we are welcoming you to here at St. Mary's. We are so excited to start this new year, and particularly to start this new year in person, which is the plan at this moment. As you know, the college also has a vaccine mandate. So we are planning to have all of you in classrooms come fall, and it's going to be, I think it actually might be a little emotional for those of us who have been living our lives, our teaching and learning lives remotely over the last year. Okay, so you have heard a little bit about the college. It's now my job to tell you a little more about what we are welcoming you to specifically today, and that is the electronic version of our campus event, which is Seahawk Orientation, Advising, and Registration, or ESOR. Before the pandemic, we would have been hosting you on campus, where that question, where will the river take you, becomes far more resonant because we would be on the banks of the river. We very much miss seeing you here on the river, and we are really excited that we have a program for you that will ensure that you get to know our curriculum, your new classmates, and the resources available to you at St. Mary's that will help to ensure your success. As you know, because you are here, we have weekly Hot Talks planned that will introduce students and families to our expectations for next year and the key offices that will help you to settle in and make the most of your time at college. And as you can imagine, we will be triple checking all of those links and passwords to make sure that they work the way that they're supposed to. In addition to these weekly sessions, students get to know St. Mary's through their orientation group, which is led by an orientation leader, and participation through things like Zine, which is how many of you were able to actually end up logging in here today. You also, on the curricular front, are going to get to know the college through Blackboard and through your one-on-one meeting with your advisor. So at this point, I'm going to share my screen. So give me just a second to do that. You all should be seeing my screen with a how to ESOR message. And we're going to go ahead and give you some details on this process. I think we are hearing from you that you excited to start about the fall, to start learning about the curriculum and start planning out your courses. So we want to take some time today to figure out how all of this is going to work and make sure that you have a sense of what your next steps are going to be. To help me with that explanation, I am joined by Madison Rechtenwall, who is an orientation coordinator for this coming year. So Madison, could you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Of course. Thank you for joining us today. I'm so excited to see all the chats going on. I am Madison Rechtenwald. I'm one of our orientation coordinators for this year, alongside Nicole Gunderson. We're helping to plan what's going on with not only ESOR, but getting ready for your fall orientation for when you guys join us in the fall. We're so excited. Along with being an orientation coordinator, I am also one of our peer lead interns with the Career Development Center on campus, and I will be joining programs board as one of the marketing co-chairs in the fall, which is very exciting. I got involved with orientation initially because as a first generation college student, it's terrifying coming right into a four-year university. So having student leaders like orientation leaders and resident assistants and peer mentors in our classes were so detrimental in me finding my place. And I wanted to try to do the same thing for other first-year students as well. Yeah, OLs, we are so excited. All my OLs are always talking about, when can I send things out? When can we give this to them? And we're just working with them to get you as much information as possible. And we're so excited to have you here in the fall in our unique and wonderful campus.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Madison. Okay, we are going to turn to the matter at hand. And there's a little bit of an echo. I hope that's okay on y'all's end. So the matter at hand, which is how will you figure out what classes that you want to take? How are you going to schedule your advising appointment? How are you going to meet with your advisor and get registered for classes? So Madison's going to walk us through a little bit of that process.
So here's a little bit of the process. This week, you'll be getting an email from your summer advisor. This email will tell you how you can schedule your summer advising appointment, either on Zoom or on the telephone with this summer advisor. Before your appointment, there are just a couple things that you got to complete. You have to make sure that your map survey is completed. You were sent an email with the link, and the link will also be available on Blackboard, which we'll touch on in a moment. And you'll also want to review the information on the LEAD curriculum. How do I do that, you might ask?
All right, so I am going to, let me advance my slide. So this is the login for Blackboard at St. Mary's. Blackboard is our learning management system. Some faculty will use Google Classroom, but we have Blackboard as well, and that's what we've chosen to use for ESOR for a number of reasons I won't bore you with. If you would like to follow along, you can take a minute to go ahead and log on. And Madison, at this stage, do you want to share your screen and show the group what you are doing as you get logged on to Blackboard? I'm going to stop share to make sure that you can do that.
There we go. All right, so I have the logins, the login information for Blackboard up on my screen. If everyone can see that, if you're clicking along, I'll describe how you can log in. If you want to just watch, then you'll get to see the step-by-step here. You want to click into sign into Blackboard. Now your SMCM email, as well as that password you set for your Gmail, is going to be your password for almost everything on Blackboard. Now I logged in a little bit ago, so it skipped all that, but you'll just put in your SMCM email, which would be your first initial, middle initial, and last name. Usually it varies. And then the password that you chose probably just a little bit ago. You'll just log in with that. So I'll give some people a little bit of time. If you are logging in, give me a thumbs up in the chat or in the reaction stuff, and I'll give it a couple seconds.
And of course, as you go through this process, if you have questions, please feel free to post them. And we will do a Q&A at the end of this if there's time. I know we're kind of a little more compressed today, but I'm definitely happy to stick around and answer questions if you have them. And I'm guessing some other of our hosts will be willing to do that too. As folks are logging on, I will also tell you one of the things we wanted to do with this session is to really show you how this works rather than just telling you a lot of instructions without giving you a visual. We know that even with this visual that's going to, I hope, help make this feel more familiar when you go to do it, that you still may have questions about Blackboard. So if those do come up, depending on the kind of issue you're having, you can always contact our IT department. You can reach out to me. You can reach out to your OL. You can post something on ZME, talk to the admissions office. All of those folks will direct you to the right place and answer the questions that you may have. All right, are you ready, Madison?
I am ready if everyone is ready. So basic navigation of Blackboard, you see this little side menu. It's on the left of my screen. Not sure how it looks on your screen, but you have a bunch of things over here. What we're going to click on today is courses. Now they just updated the Blackboard, so it's brand new and very precise looking. Down here, you see a bunch of my old classes, but if you look right here, you'll see the ESOR program summer 2021. There we go. Okay. You guys should have just gotten access to this today. If you would like to, you can favorite it right here at the top, but it should be your only course, so easy to see. You want to click on this. And when you first pop in, you'll get the announcement section, which is going to restate everything that Christine and I have said here today, just in case you're more of a visual learner and need to read it there. So if you look over here, again, on the left of my screen, you'll see another little side menu, and you can click Getting Started with ESOR, which will explain the process to you again, but in a little more detail, reminding you of certain dates that we'll mention later in the presentation today, as well as a couple more things that you should be completing in specific orders. You can read through that on your own time. Something that's very specific is down here at the bottom of each folder, there's going to be a Mark Reviewed section. Now, if I unclick that, which I thought I unclicked, see that nothing pops up at the bottom. What you'll have to do is once you've read through all of this in its entirety, you click Mark Reviewed, and a learning check will pop up. Now, these learning checks are required to move on to the next section for the Learn section and the Plan section. You'll just click on the learning check. Mine will not show up, unfortunately, because I've already completed it to make sure everything is working for you guys. But it's like 4 or 5 questions doesn't matter if you get them wrong. It's not for a grade. It's just making sure that the information we're giving to you guys is rather clear and precise for you. So as soon as you finish those learning checks, the next section that you'll need to read will pop up. It's kind of like an unfolding, like puzzle. So once you've done that and you finish the e-source section, you can go to our learn section, which will have all of my stuff is already reviewed. So you won't see this, you only see this first read me section on how to access the content in this folder. Everything is written out for you, so it should be easy peasy for you to click through. Again, if you have any problems, please email your OLs or you can contact OI team. We can help you out with that.
Excellent. Okay, so one of the things what we wanted to show you was the importance of doing those, clicking the reviewed box and doing the learning check, because otherwise you're going to go into this big section learn and you will see nothing. You will see only the README, or you might see, if you haven't done the getting started with eSOAR part, you will see literally nothing. And so the reason we've set it up this way is because we really want you to engage with this content about the curriculum that's laid out in order. So you really are supposed to proceed through it in the order that it appears. That will help you to get a sense of what it is that we're going to be doing this fall as you begin your coursework at the college. And so you really start with a high level picture, and then you move down to get more and more specific information about different curricular elements. And then finally, the last set of slides is all about what you're going to be taking in the fall. So once you've done that, you can click over to the plan section. And do you want to do that really quickly, Madison?
Of course.
And once you're done with Learn, everything opens up, right? So you can go straight into Plan once you've completed your Learn section. And that's where you're going to find the stuff you really want, which is what classes you should take to start different majors, what's going to satisfy different requirements, what our inquiries are for this fall, and all that kind of information. So do the Learn work, and then you get to the Plan section, which is going to give you the tools that you need to start planning your schedule. So Madison, you want to talk a little bit about how that schedule planning process and advising is going to work?
Of course. Should I keep sharing my screen, or should I?
Let me share my screen, because I've got some summary slides that will help.
There we go.
I'm going to click through some others that I don't think we're going to need.
So all of this planning from the Learn section, which gives you some information about the lead curriculum and your requirements for all that. And the Plan is where you get to see all the classes that are being offered, build a draft schedule, that kind of stuff. This planning gets you ready for your advising appointment. Before your advising appointment, make sure you take all of these materials and you can build out a draft schedule along with your map survey, which is in that little side menu bar, will be the starting point for your conversation with your summer advisor. Your advisor will see the courses that you've kind of put in your draft schedule or your mention that you're interested in, and they're going to make sure that matches up with your goals, whether you're starting a major or you want to get some of your required courses out of the way. Now, your advisor will then take all of these classes and submit a draft schedule and also a couple alternative classes to the registrar's office by July 2nd. Now, all of the classes that are being offered are all equal opportunity. So as long as your schedules are in by July 2nd, everyone will have the same chance at all the classes. The registrar's office will then get these draft schedules and individually create a schedule based off of your classes. All of those schedules will then be available to you by Monday, July 19th. And if you have any questions at all about your schedule, you can contact the staff in Office of Student Support Services, and they'll be available to answer them. If you want to make any changes to your schedule, you'll be able to do so during the schedule adjustment period, which is July 26th to the 30th. Now, if you don't think you have to make any changes, but then you get here in the fall and you talk with your summer advisor and you talk to your permanent advisor in August, and you realize that maybe this class isn't what I really want to do, you'll then, during the first week of classes, be able to add and drop any courses that you are or are not interested in anymore. Now, I know I just threw a lot of information out. A summary of everything that I just said is on that beginning announcement section of Blackboard. And if you have any questions, email your OLs.
Absolutely. You also are, because you're going to be getting this message, you should be getting an email from your faculty advisor either tonight or sometime tomorrow. And that's going to have those instructions for how your advisor wants you to make an appointment with them. And again, like Madison said, it's okay if your appointment is next week. It's okay if your appointment is mid-June or the end of June. You're going to have the same chance at the classes that are available, the seats that are available, as you would if you get, advised tomorrow. So we actually don't really want you to get advised tomorrow. We think you should spend some time looking at this material on Blackboard and doing some planning. Okay, so I want to say thank you to Madison for giving us such a great summary of what it is that you're going to be doing. This is the moment for questions. And as Madison said, you of course can ask your OL, your faculty advisor, who, as I said, is going to be reaching out over email. So you'll have that available to reach out to them as well as your OL. I can tell you guys are using Zeme because you don't think you would be here if you weren't. So that's also a good place to post some questions. That said, we amazingly do have a little bit of time for questions now. So please go ahead and put them in the chat. We also have our Dean of Students, Derek Young, here, who can answer questions about housing and other sort of student life issues or questions that you might have. So go ahead and put them in. I can see one already. How many classes do students take per semester? Students take four credit classes per semester, plus in their first semester, they take a 1 credit class, Core P 101, which is the beginning of the professional pathway. So most students, with a few exceptions, which you can talk about with your advisor, or you can ask me now and I'll tell you, but the few exceptions, most students are going to be registered for 17 credits come fall. Let's see, parking pass. That is always a popular question. Derek, do you want to say a little bit about the parking pass?
Sure. So in early July, an email will come out from the business office letting you know that you can sign up for a parking pass, $50 a semester, $100 for the year. You'll sign up, and when you log into the portal, you'll get to see which parking lot you are allowed to park in based on where your assignment is. And I know that probably will be, the next question is, how will I know when I get my assignment? So on June 1st, the housing contract is due. So we want all of you to get your housing contracts in by then. And then after that, we'll give you a few weeks to look around and find your roommate. It's sort of like match.com. So you can go in and look at profiles of other students and then send them messages, get to know them a little bit more and make a decision if that would be your roommate. And then you'll match in that system. And then we will send out housing confirmations with your housing assignment in July as well.
Awesome. So, so we got a couple of questions. Oh, go ahead, Madison.
I saw a question that asked, how do you know who your OL is? If you
Oh,
haven't
yes,
already,
thank you.
you should check your SMCM Gmail. Your OL should have reached out to you a couple weeks ago, or if you've recently deposited, they should have reached out recently or will be reaching out recently, introducing themselves and that they're your summer orientation leader and helping out with all that information. However, if you didn't get assigned an OL, please email the orientation@smcm.edu or message our Instagram and we can figure that information out for you.
All right. So we have a couple of questions about 4 credit classes. And yes, most of our academic classes are 4 credits each, not exclusively so. We do run some 2 credit classes, occasionally 1 credit classes, depends on the scope and the timing. You also, there's a question about why not 3 credit classes. It's really just a question of how you structure the time. Places that have 3 credit classes, you're typically taking 5 classes. Here you take 4 credit classes, again, with the exception of the Core P sequence, the professional pathway that you'll begin this fall. And so it's just a different way of structuring the learning. When we moved, we were designated as an honors college way back in the 90s. That, which makes me feel old, by the way, like to say way back in the 90s. When we were designated an honors college, my understanding was that that's one of the changes the institution made, was to go to 4 credit classes because it provides a more opportunity to go deeper with a subject over the course of this semester rather than spreading yourself over 5 different topics. All right, I'm trying to catch myself up with the chat. Where do we want to go next?
I've got a bunch of them that I've been writing, so can I
Oh,
get
great.
in here? Okay.
Absolutely.
So, Matt V wanted to know, are we gonna have to wear masks inside of the classroom?
Derek, do you want to take that one?
Sure. Right now we are, the outdoor mask mandate has been lifted by the state. Due to capacities, we're still requiring masks indoors, in classrooms, yes.
So I also am seeing a question about the earliest and latest times for classes. Classes can begin as early as 8 a.m. And the latest class we offer is at 6, running 6 to 7:50. Occasionally there might be a recitation or lab section that could run past that, sorry, 7:50. I think I said 6:50, but 6 to 7:50 is the latest class. And a recitation section I think could run a little longer, but that's fairly, I would say our evening classes, we don't offer as many classes in the evening as we do in the other parts of our schedule grid.
Julia would like to know, where do we access the language placement test?
Ooh, so you likely know, at least I hope you know, the applicant gateway and your enrollment checklist. And so to get to the language placement test, you're going to go to the applicant gateway, click through to the enrollment checklist, and the foreign language placement test should be there. If you have issues with that, you can contact admissions, you can contact me, and we'll get that settled for you. I also saw a question about getting to fall course selections, and there's a couple of ways you can do that. The easiest is through the material we've put together on Blackboard. And so in that plan section of Blackboard, you can see courses that are being offered for the fall semester, but they've been curated, so to speak. So we've taken out the upper levels that first years typically aren't going to be taking, and we've organized them so that you can see which lower level classes you're going to take to start a major, which ones are going to satisfy different core requirements, and which ones would start you off on a core inquiry. So if you're going to do your core requirements by taking a set of connected classes instead of just a random assemblage of arts, humanities, science and such, then you can also see how you would get started with that core. Right, let's see what else is up in the questions.
So we have somebody asking that they can't access that Google Classroom. And my question for them would be, do you have a St. Mary's email account yet? Because you can't access it without the St. Mary's email account. So if you're not accessing it, if you haven't activated that, that won't work. If it still doesn't work, you could reach out to me. I'll put my email in here and I will help you out. And we will get you into the Google Classroom.
I just answered the question in the chat, but yes, I'm happy to post these slides. I'll put them in Blackboard.
And tonight's being recorded, so you'll be able to access everything that was presented as well. I know I saw another one.
The language placement. If you get a 5 on the AP for language, you have placed out of the language requirement. That said, if you get a 5, that's awesome. You might still want to take your foreign language placement test for 2 reasons. One, if you want to continue studying the language, and if you got a 5 on your AP, you probably should. And because if you take an additional language past or additional language class past your language requirement, that will count for your cultural literacy requirement. So you could still conceivably take a language here at the college to satisfy a requirement. So I would still take your placement test unless you're just like, I'm done forever with that language. Maybe you want to start a new one. All right.
Nadia would like to know, how do I access the Zimi?
Oh, that is not something I know. Madison, Derek? Uh-oh.
I think that's the admissions thing, not orientation.
Yeah.
If you are having trouble getting into, or if you have questions about Zimi, we will have to, do we have admissions folks who could answer that? I'm not sure. Who's
This
still
is
on at this
David.
point. Hi.
Hi, sorry. I'm just listening to the wonderful session. And you can access See Me, it's an app. So you can go in through the App Store or whatever it is for Google and go in there and you can access See Me through there and then just find St. Mary's College of Maryland. It's that simple.
We had a question about what languages. Yes, for the placement test to place into a course here at the college, it is French, Spanish, and Chinese. That said, if you achieve a certain level of competency, certain course level at the college level, so through the AP or through a community college class from another college, you can use that to satisfy your language requirement. Also, if you are a heritage speaker, if you speak a language other than English at home, you can talk to the chair of the International Languages and Cultures Department, and they will figure out. They'll sort of talk to you and they can place you out of the language requirement. But again, if you are a heritage speaker, you might really to continue your language here. All right.
We have a student who is asking about their Blackboard. They're having difficulty accessing. They're into it and then they're coming out. I think that if you reach out to Madison or the orientation leader, your orientation leader should be able to get there. So this person says, I can't get back into the other sections like Learn and Plan It. It just takes me to a pull-out page with announcements.
So you have to be sure with each of the sections, in order to see the Learn and Plan section, you have to start at the Getting Started with eSOAR, click that marked reviewed box, and then finish the learning check before you'll see the Learn and the Plan sections on there. If you do have problems where you do the learning checks and they're not showing up, you might need to contact OIT, or you can email your orientation leader and they can direct you to me or Derek and we can figure all that stuff out for you. But you do want to be sure that you've clicked that mark reviewed and completed the learning check to see all the other sections.
And one of the things we can do is if you later this week or next week, you want to do a Zoom call, we can share screens, see what's going on. Sometimes it's technical, right? In which case, we're probably not the ones who can help. That's going to be an IT issue. But if it's something about the architecture of the course, the structure of the course, then usually we can get that sorted for you. It is just our way of, before setting you loose with a bunch of information about what classes are offered in the fall, we really want you to be thinking about what you need to fulfill. Like, what's the purpose of that fall schedule? What are the requirements? Everybody, for instance, we'll talk about this in next week's Talk. Everybody has to take a core seminar. Everybody has to take core P. Most students are gonna do something to start their major, or at least take something to help them figure out some of their interests. They're just things like that in that Learn section that we want you to go through before you start, say, kind of pulling willy-nilly a bunch of classes into your schedule. So the hope is that that's going to make the course planning process easier. There's also, in the plan section, there's a schedule planner. So if you are someone who wants to kind of write down on paper or pull it up in Google as a Google Doc or as a Word doc and start typing in your options, you can do that, which will help you keep track of some of your choices too.
Right. Essie is asking us, where is it going to say what all the requirements are that we need to get through? So
that is in the plan
go ahead.
section. That is in the plan section of the Blackboard course. So if you go to plan, it'll show you everything that you have to do for your core requirements, core P requirements, all that stuff. It'll tell you everything under that section that you'll have to take for not only your major, but also for the college itself.
Yeah, and if you go also into the Learn section about core inquiry, core seminars, those are also some slides that kind of take you through those requirements. But I can tell you as a student, you have some foundational learning requirements, which is your core seminar, your core P, professional pathway sequence, and then you have to satisfy breadth of learning requirements. And students do that either through core exploration, which is 6 classes across 6 different disciplinary areas, or they do it through a core inquiry, which is 4 or 5 classes across a set of classes that that through the work they do, the learning outcomes in them satisfy the same learning expectations as the 6 classes on the core exploration side. And then you have to have a major and do a capstone. All majors have a capstone. So, so that's really what you're looking at as you progress through your particularly your first couple of years of the college. Yes, Madison.
I saw a question here that asking if there are going to be any in-person events for the incoming freshmen this summer. Unfortunately, over the summer, it looks like we will not be doing any in-person events just because of trying to get back to a more normal, planning for the fall, and because people are still getting all their vaccination stuff in order. We want to give people as much time to get that vaccine and their records updated as possible. However, when you do arrive in the fall, we have a bunch of really fun and awesome events for orientation being planned for all first-year students as a welcome week for to St. Mary's. So while we don't have anything for summer, there's going to be a bunch of jam-packed things happening in that first couple of days that you're on campus.
I'll just jump on to that. We had a meeting today to talk about making sure that we have the most engaging year we can this year. We didn't have as much of it this past year because of all of the restrictions, but we're planning on going all out for our students next year and making it as engaging inside the classroom as well as outside.
And also, if you would like to come on down to the campus, we would love to see you. You can certainly tour. You could stop in at admissions. We can answer your questions. You will see some community-based activities going on this summer, music festivals. So please come on down.
Yes, and I'm going to jump back to a question also related to in-person versus remote. We are planning in person, and yes, the campus is requiring vaccines with exception for medical reasons or for religious reasons. But we are planning. Part of the reason to require the vaccine is so that we can all safely be in person. That said, most classes will be in person, regular classes. We are hoping that the capacity for classrooms will allow all classes to meet in person the way that they did pre-pandemic, but we will have to follow the rules, right? Both from the county and from the CDC. So some of that will have to wait a little bit on our on the rules that guide our capacity. But the idea is to be in person. That is what we're planning for, and frankly, what we're really excited about. There may be some classes offered remotely. I think there'll be a small number, but there are some courses offered by faculty who are not local, and so that will be a part of the course makeup, but it's relatively small. Most of the classes are taught by faculty who are regular St. Mary's faculty and who are here on campus looking forward to being in their classrooms. Let's see, I want to go back. I did answer a question about whether if you're a heritage speaker of a language that's not offered at the college. Yes, that is exactly why you need to talk to International Languages and Cultures. You can still be placed out of your language requirement. They just need to talk to you about it. I don't know what you should expect in the language placement exam. I've been doing Duolingo Italian, but that's about all I know right now. So
Madison,
Madison, do you want to say a little bit?
So I took French for 6 years in middle school and high school and decided to do Spanish in college. So I had no clue what I was reading. It's just a bunch of conjugate this verb, or what does this translate to? And it gives you multiple choice stuff. Since I've never taken Spanish before, clicked a bunch of random things and it said, you're going to take the basic level of Spanish. So my assumption is it's going to be the same for both Chinese and for French and our other languages still being offered. It's just going to ask you a couple questions that if you've taken the course before, if you've taken the language as a course before, then you get to put that stuff down. Or if you haven't, you just click random buttons.
So if you haven't gotten your SMCM password, you do need to follow the directions in the gateway to establish that. So make sure that you do that. If you do have problems, contact IT office or reach out to me and I'll forward that request. I don't see any other.
Yeah, it is almost 8 o'clock. I have never been so shocked that we made it through before 8 and with a Q&A. I do want to just give one quick one quick offer to post another question. If you have something, you are also more than welcome to stick around for a few minutes. I will stay on. I'm going to put my email in the chat as well. So if you have questions, you are welcome to email me. And so I mostly just want to say, you guys are great for being here and for being willing to bear with us as we experience a few difficulties. I hope you can hear the excitement that we have for welcoming you to campus after the year and a half that we have all experienced in our respective places of work and of learning and our homes. I can sense the excitement from you, and that has been just so moving to see students who are so excited to be joining us in person in the fall. So please do keep reaching out with your questions. As we said earlier, please keep an eye out for your email. Will come to your SMCM email address from your advisor. If you're very recently committed to St. Mary's, there may be a delay on that. We will need to get you through the system, get you assigned and all that. So if you don't have it, but you just now committed, don't worry, we'll have you up and running very soon. So I want to say thank you to Kathy Pusiker, who is in charge of new student transitions, to Madison and her with the orientation leaders as orientation coordinator, and for helping me out today with this information on what you're going to be doing through ESOR. And thank you too to Derek Young for answering some questions on the student affairs side. And I'm so pleased that we were able to start this off with President Jordan and with Vice President Houghton. And I hope that all of you have wonderful evenings. We're looking forward to seeing you every week for the summer. So please keep these Hawk Talks in mind and enjoy the rest of your evening, okay? I'm going to say goodbye.
Everybody, and we'll stay on if you have any questions.
Yeah, I was just going to say, yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Bhargavi, too.
Yes.